So we've got folks starting to join. Welcome to those that are here. We'll just wait a couple more minutes, let people wrap up their last meetings and take a bio break if needed, and we'll plan to get started in a couple minutes. Everyone, as people continue to join, just wanted to announce again, we're going to get started in a couple minutes, just waiting for people to keep joining in as they get out of their last meetings or take a bio break between meetings. All right, everyone. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It's 5 past. We can go ahead and get started. As people pile in, they'll have to play catch up. So thank you all for being here, and I'm excited to be presenting to everyone today. A little bit about me. My name is Lee Eliav. I am the VP of Marketing here at Percent Pledge. I worked along with our CEO on the Engaging Employees in Giving report, which most of the data from today's presentation draws upon. I call the Washington, D.C. area home, and I'd love to hear from you all at lee@percentpledge.org with any comments, questions, anything we didn't cover, any feedback on today's presentation, as we might do it again in the future. I wanted to quickly talk about the source of the data for today. So when Percent Pledge works with our customers, one of the first things we do is a passion assessment where we survey the employee base to get a sense of what their giving needs are, what their interests are, how they want to engage. And that allows us to build a really tailored and customized program for each of our customers. And then for the purposes of this report, we're able to take all of that data across our customers, 16,000 or so responses, anonymize them, and kind of bring to you an overview of what's happening within employee populations or workforce populations around the country as to how they're thinking about giving. For those that don't know about us, we provide a single source of impact for social impact, a single source for social impact across our giving platform, our volunteering platform, and then we also plan volunteer events. I think what really sets us apart is our hands-on support from our dedicated team of social impact managers, and then monthly impact reports that go out to both every employee and then also company-wide. So today we're going to go through three main questions. First is, do employees want giving programs? Second is, what do they want? What do employees want? What do teams want as it comes to volunteering? And then lastly, what causes align best with employee passion? And we might do a couple polls throughout to get a sense for what everyone on this call is doing and be able to share and discuss. And then with each question, we'll also dive into the research results. So what employees say as an answer to this question, what you should do about that, which I think is often the most important piece. And then just some examples that I spoke with our social impact team about, how are our customers, or what are some good examples from the field of companies doing some of these things, and what are they seeing as a result? So first, do employees want giving programs? The answer to this was a resounding yes, and I think this even took us by surprise. So 93% of employees say they want opportunities to do good at work. 95% say they'd like to participate in corporate giving programs. And I think for those of you that might offer a corporate giving program, which we'll do a poll on in a second, oftentimes we're not seeing companies with participation rates as high as 95%, which indicates that there is some disconnect between what employees want from a giving program and what employees are offering, or a disconnect in awareness. And so if you're looking at your own giving programs and seeing lower engagement rates or participation rates, that's a good time or a good indication to start asking some questions. So with that, Corey, let's just open up our first quick poll on and see if we, what our audience currently has. Give everyone a second to pick yes or no. And Corey, I think we could probably wrap that poll up. I don't know that I can do it on my end. There we go. So pretty good mix on today's discussion. 58% say they do have giving programs with their employees today, and 42% do not. I think some of these next steps kind of relevant for either group, and maybe more so for those that don't have something yet. First of all, obviously start a giving program at your company, even if you have to start really small. Employees are obviously hungry for this kind of program, and they're willing to jump in with you. I think super important when starting a program, though, is making a plan to drive awareness. And wink, wink, this is coming from the marketing guy. But, I think so many times we hear of companies where, employees just don't know the programs that they have. They haven't been told enough. And I think a lot of us, myself included, as a marketer, think like, oh, I told them once, like, isn't that enough? And the answer resoundingly is no. People often need reminders and need little boosts to join and get involved. Next, we've seen giving incentives go a really long way in driving participation. What I mean by that is offering matching donation campaigns, offering gift donation campaigns, showing employees that you're in it with them, that you care about the things that they care about as well. And then, I've talked a lot right now just about donation programs, but giving employees multiple ways to engage. Some employees might want to donate their time, others might want to donate money. Some people want to donate their skills in addition to just their time. And so you have to be offering employees the different ways that they want to engage so that you can actually drive the participation rates you want. And lastly, and we'll cover this one a little later in more depth, so I'll just kind of touch on it for right now. Remember that one size fits all generally doesn't fit anyone well. And that goes for clothing and giving programs in my experience. So I think a good example of this is VIA. So when Percent Pledge launched with VIA, they had a pretty low engagement rate, and they really wanted to reach and maintain above average participation rates. And so with a matching donation program of $300 per employee, again, one of those giving incentives to drive engagement, and then also quarterly volunteer events, they had a 70% employee participation and a 77% increase in donations after launching a matching donation program. So employees, again, they are interested in participating in these kinds of programs if you can communicate it to them, and if you can make sure that they're aware. So what do teams want for volunteering? I think the answers in this question really took Joel and I by surprise as we were working on this piece, which was that 55% of employees said they wanted to volunteer 4 or more times per year. And 96% are ready to return to in-person volunteering. So I think there's often a question of, how ready are people to come back to the office? How ready are people to volunteer in person? How ready are people to gather? The answer recently has been resoundingly that they are ready. And so with that, let's kind of quickly do another poll of the group here on what kind of volunteer programs you have, if any, before we dive into some of these next steps. And Corey, I trust you to know when to shut things down and show us the answers, because I can't see them come in. Great, thanks. So it looks like resoundingly people are having 4+ events per year in this group, 60%, 4+ times per year, with the others getting about 10% each. So great work to this group. I think a lot of this is already happening, and so let's hopefully we can add a little bit of value here on ways to make that volunteer program more impactful. So first, give employees as much choice as possible. That's something we've seen be super successful with our customers and with programs that we've looked over, where both virtual and in-person events for remote employees, you want to make sure you're including them with virtual events, and then in-person events are just a great way to get employees together. And I think coming off of this notion that 96% of employees are ready to volunteer in person again, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think the number of employees that are ready to come back to the office, for example, is much lower. And so volunteer opportunities provide a really good option of ways to get your team together, to get people interacting cross-functionally, to build some of those personal bonds that are so important to high-performing teams. Next, traditional and skills-based. So I think a lot of times we think of volunteering as, going to a local food bank maybe, but I think there's a lot of skill-based ways that you can volunteer, and ways that you can leverage volunteer events to put your work and the skills you have from work to use. And then this one seems like everyone on this call is checking the box, but make sure you're offering multiple opportunities to volunteer throughout the year. We've also seen it drive a lot of additional impact to create and share impact reports. So when employees can actually see and share their own experience plus the impact that their volunteering had, they're more likely to volunteer again, or they're more likely to recruit others or be influenced themselves to join an event. And then if you're stumped on kind of when to do an event or how to do one, it's really easy to just align to cause holidays or company causes. And if you haven't downloaded or subscribed to the Percent Pledge cause calendar, I highly recommend you do that, which is just a calendar that will give you all of the meaningful cause holidays throughout the year. And you can, again, use those to sign up for or plan out volunteer events. So a really good recent example from our social impact team on this was Ilia. Ilia is a makeup company or beauty products company, I should say, and they held an event where they boxed up beauty products and makeup from Ilia for high school graduating seniors that couldn't afford them. They packed up 5,000 bags. They had impacted 5,000 women in a 1.5 hour event. I think what's really important here, though, is that pretty much every employee from Ilia attended this event and had really good things to say, right? And again, this signals the importance of, or the not importance, I shouldn't say, but the availability of in-person volunteer opportunities is a way to bring a company together, bring people from different parts of a company together, and have them work together side by side and kind of build some of that camaraderie and bond while impacting and helping a really good cause. So next, what cause is uniformly important to employees? I think this is probably one of the questions that I find ourselves getting asked the most. What causes should I support? It seems like a minefield. I think what's really important in this data here is that employees are unique, which is no surprise to us on this call. And therefore, they all have different causes that they're really passionate about. And you can see that distribution across a population where there's not going to be, even 50% of a population that's super passionate about a single cause. And so I think when it comes to selecting causes, it's better to be broad and to allow employees choice than it is to try to pigeonhole them into the causes that are specific to your own company. I think what's really interesting here is we weren't able to publish this data because it was hard to find a way, honestly, to publish it. But we looked at with each company kind of their corporate causes and the ones they cared about against what their employees said. And of course, there is some alignment between, a healthcare company whose corporate partners might be in the healthcare space and employees' tendencies to want to give back to healthcare. But for the most part, while there was a little bit of a connection there, we didn't see it as strongly as a lot of us might hope, meaning 100% of employees at a healthcare company weren't passionate about healthcare, or 100% of the employees at an environmental company weren't passionate about the environment. You did still see this mix. And so even in these instances where you have really strong corporate partnerships, there could be employees that just don't identify with that cause. And we shouldn't make those, or I shouldn't say that. It's probably not in our best interest to make those employees feel alienated. So with that, I think we have our last poll here for how you guys go out and how do you choose the nonprofits you partner with. We know there's quite a bit of giving going on, especially on the volunteer side. So how are you picking where to go? Are you asking employees for input? Are you just working with the existing nonprofit partners that your company might have, or are you picking them yourself? And Corey, whenever you're ready to shut that off, whenever you see people have responded, feel free. Great. So it seems like the resounding majority, 72% of folks who are with us today, go to existing nonprofit partners as the way to select organizations. And I think, skipped ahead. I think it's super important here to just highlight that what we find is that one size fits all programs are rarely driving major engagement. The most engaging programs that we see are rarely the ones where there is a corporate partner that all of the activity is done with. And that's, again, because employees have such varied interests and varied passions. And what we find is that the best programs are those that offer flexibility and support. And what I mean by that is flexibility, meaning employees can pick the causes that are most important to them, whether that's animal welfare or the environment. And then an employer is there to support them in those choices, meaning they're offering matching donation programs, they're offering volunteer events, regardless of what causes an employee supports, or volunteer hours, I should say. So kind of showing employees that you stand side by side with them in the passion or cause that they care about most. And I think an example where we really saw this play out within one of our own customers was Customer IO. So Customer IO, had a low participation rate in their 2019 giving program. So that program looked a lot like what a lot of programs we see look like, where, and even better, actually, I should say, where Customer IO gifted employees a set amount of money to donate to one of 5 nonprofit partners that the company worked with. And they saw limited participation, and they really wanted to drive up that participation. And so they went from a program where they were offering 5 nonprofits as options to support to one where employees could pick any nonprofit to support, and they offered a matching donation program there. And in their first month, they saw 90% employee participation in that matching donation program, and they were also able to raise $80,000 across all of the different charities that employees cared about. And I think, again, this is another signal to us of the pent-up demand within workforce populations to have these programs that are flexible, that support them, and that allow them to make the choice for the way that they want to give back to their communities. So I do have a little bit of a bonus round here. 4 was a hard number to fit on a slot, so we're going to do it as a bonus round, which is that employees believe that giving back supports their learning and development. And this one was really a resounding answer from the employee populations that we've worked with, where 88% believe that giving back, whether normally through volunteering here, contributes to professional development. And in a lot of ways, that connection is easy to make once you have it, or once the blinders have been lifted. When you're doing a volunteer event like mock interviews, you are learning skills like interview facilitation, you're learning leadership, you're learning better communication skills. If you work on, we've worked with a couple of companies that have done curriculum creation, right? And teams there are learning presentation skills, and they're learning team management and training, and they're learning how to think about the long-term plans for employees. And then I think there's also a huge added benefit in skills-based planning or skills-based events, where you are taking your skills that you already have and you're applying them in a new way. And so it is no wonder, once you kind of think about it, that employees do view these activities as part of their learning and development. And so I think kind of after all this, it's at least apparent that giving programs are a great thing to do, but we totally get it, that they're challenging, they're hard to launch. I think, giving programs can be tedious, they can be high risk. Organizing volunteer events is difficult. Vetting charities can be super challenging. I think that's where our social impact team, led by Maureen, can really help. So we are here, we're able to help. Maureen has 14 years of experience in philanthropy and nonprofit management and in CSR. And I think the presence of a team like this is really one of the things that sets Percent Pledge apart, and it makes us able to help companies give in ways that are above and beyond what you're already doing. We're not just a SaaS company and a SaaS platform, but we're much, much more than that. After this presentation, you're going to get a link to the report that today's presentation was based off of. It's based on over 16,000 anonymized interviews, as we said. It can help you benchmark your programs. It can help build support for an existing program or to grow a program. Feel free to share it inside your organization, read it yourself if you haven't already. You need a little refresher on some of the data and the numbers we went through today. And then lastly, we're excited to try something new for all of those on the call today. Thank you so much for joining today. We'd love to do a 30-minute consult with one of our social impact member teams. That team has helped thousands of CSR programs and can help you with building a business case internally to grow your program, with learning best practices, or with improving your participation and engagement rates. So if you're struggling, if you're not sure what to do next, if you're not getting the results you want, I'd highly recommend taking some time talking to somebody on our team. I'm sure they can help you figure out kind of what to do next and what to try next. And with that, I think we're about a little earlier than we thought. I was expecting to go about a half hour today, but we have 5 minutes for questions. If there are any, I'd love to take some questions and hopefully help out some more if I can. Okay, I do see a couple questions coming in, so I'll go ahead and just start taking these as they come. The first one we have is around volunteering. Let's jump back there. Probably going to go too far. Okay, super. So it seems like, and we heard this kind of to generalize the question a bit, we heard that a lot of the folks on this call are doing 4+ volunteer events. And in this person's case, they're getting a little less engagement than they want, or lower participation numbers than they want. I think, so the question here is, how do you recommend driving up participation in events? I think as a marketer, my first answer is going to go that direction, which is, make sure that your employees are aware of events. I think in a lot of the instances where we are surveying populations that already have programs in place, we're finding that a lot of employees don't know about them. So generally 40-50% of employees are saying that they weren't aware that their company already offered programs, even though we are working with the team that puts those programs on. And so make sure that those events and those opportunities are being communicated in a way that people can find them. Next, I would say, I'm a big test and learn is the term we use on the marketing side, where, try different ideas, try different causes, try different types of events, and figure out which ones really work the best for your team, which ones engage your team, which ones they're interested in. And kind of going back to the question we asked on the causes side, I think the majority of folks on the call were picking the partners for their events based on their corporate partnerships. And I would kind of put the exercise to you to ask employees, figure out what causes they're passionate about. You'd be surprised at how willing people are to share their opinion, especially when it comes to something near and dear to their heart. And you'll learn a lot about what your population wants. I don't see any more questions coming in. I think we had originally blocked this off for an hour. So for those that put an hour aside, happy to give you a half hour back. In my mind, we were going to do about a half hour. So I'm happy to give 2 minutes back. And I think with that, thank you everybody for joining. There'll be some follow-ups coming.